My name is Emily, and at 28 years old, I thought my wedding day would be the happiest moment of my life. I had planned every detail, practiced my vows countless times, and couldn't wait to become Mrs. Emily Patterson. But as I stood at the reception giving my thank you toast, my sister Rachel grabbed the microphone and said, "I have news that can't wait. I'm pregnant." The room erupted in applause until she turned to my husband and asked him to tell everyone who the father was. What happened next turned my perfect day into a viral nightmare and set off a chain of events that would expose lies, betrayal, and secrets I never saw coming. If you're watching this video right now, I'd love to know where you're from. Drop it in the comment section below. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about the impossible decisions we face when someone's life is in our hands. The morning light filtered through the lace curtains of the bridal suite, casting delicate patterns across my wedding dress. I stood in front of the full-length mirror, hardly recognizing the woman staring back at me. My hair was swept into an elegant updo, tiny pearls woven throughout. The dress, ivory silk with delicate beading along the bodice, fit like a dream. This was it. My perfect day. "Emily, you look absolutely stunning," my maid of honor Claire said, adjusting my veil. Behind her, my bridesmaids buzzed around the room like excited butterflies, sipping mimosas and laughing. Everything felt magical, like I'd stepped into a fairy tale I'd been writing since I was a little girl. But something felt off. I couldn't quite place it. My sister Rachel sat in the corner, scrolling through her phone with a distant expression. She hadn't said much all morning, hadn't jumped into the excitement like everyone else. When I asked her to help me with my bracelet clasp, she barely looked up. "Rachel, can you give me a hand?" I asked again, holding out my wrist. She sighed, set down her phone, and walked over slowly. Her fingers fumbled with the tiny clasp, and I noticed her hands were shaking slightly. "You okay?" I asked softly. "Fine," she said, her voice flat. "Just tired." My mother swept into the room carrying a bouquet of white roses. "Oh, my baby girl," she said, tears already forming in her eyes. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride." "Thanks, Mom," I said, hugging her carefully to avoid wrinkling my dress. She glanced at Rachel. "Sweetheart, why don't you help your sister? This is her big day." Rachel gave a tight smile.
"I'm helping, Mom."
"The dress looks a little tight around the middle, doesn't it?" Rachel said suddenly, circling me with a critical eye. "Did you gain weight this week?" I felt my cheeks flush. "Rachel, I'm just saying, you want to look your best in photos." She shrugged, returning to her phone. Claire shot me a concerned look, but I waved it off. Rachel had always been like this, competitive, a little sharp around the edges. Our mother said it was because she felt overshadowed, that she was jealous. I didn't want to believe my own sister could resent me that much, especially not today. "Don't listen to her," Claire whispered. "You look perfect." The ceremony took place in a charming countryside venue, with rows of white chairs arranged beneath towering oak trees. String lights were woven through the branches, and the late afternoon sun painted everything golden. As I stood at the end of the aisle, clutching my father's arm, I felt my heart racing. And then I saw Mark. He stood at the altar in his navy suit, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. His eyes were glassy with emotion, and when he smiled, I felt everything else melt away. This was the man I was going to spend my life with. This was real. The ceremony was a blur of happy tears and trembling hands. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Mark pulled me close and kissed me like we were alone. The crowd erupted in applause, and I laughed against his lips. But as we walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, I caught a glimpse of Rachel in the front row. She wasn't smiling. She was whispering something to our cousin, her expression unreadable. When she noticed me looking, she quickly clapped along with everyone else, but something about it felt forced. I pushed the thought away. Not today. Today was perfect. The reception hall was even more beautiful than I'd imagined. Fairy lights draped across the ceiling, flowers spilled from every centerpiece, and the dance floor glowed beneath our feet. Our guests filled the room with laughter and music, champagne glasses clinking in endless toasts. Mark and I danced our first dance to Can't Help Falling in Love, and I rested my head against his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath my cheek. Everything felt right. Everything felt safe. Later, after dinner, I stood to give my toast. I'd practiced it 100 times, wanting to get every word right. I thanked my parents for their love and support, thanked my friends for being there, and finally, I turned to Rachel. And to my sister, Rachel, I said, raising my glass. Thank you for always being there for me, through everything. I couldn't imagine this day without you. The room erupted in applause. Rachel smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. She looked pale, almost sick. I assumed she'd had too much to drink, or maybe she was emotional. I made a mental note to check on her later. But then, as I started to sit back down, Rachel stood up. She reached across the table and grabbed the microphone from my hand. The DJ looked confused, but the crowd quieted down, assuming she wanted to add her own toast. I have news that can't wait, Rachel said, her voice steady but strangely cold. I'm pregnant. There was a collective gasp, followed by scattered applause. I blinked, trying to process what she'd just said. Pregnant? Why would she announce that now, during my wedding reception? My toast? I forced a smile, starting to congratulate her, but something about her expression stopped me cold. She turned slowly, deliberately, and locked eyes with Mark. Tell them who the father is, Mark. The room went completely silent. I felt the champagne glass slip from my fingers. It hit the floor with a sharp crash, shards scattering across the polished wood. Everyone stared, at Rachel, at Mark, at me. Mark's face had gone white. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. What? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Rachel's eyes were cold, almost triumphant. You promised you'd tell her after the honeymoon, Mark. But I'm tired of waiting. The murmurs started then, spreading through the crowd like wildfire. I heard my mother gasp. Someone's chair scraped loudly against the floor. The DJ had stopped the music entirely. Rachel, what are you talking about? I said, my voice shaking. This isn't funny. I'm not joking, Emily. She turned back to the crowd. Mark and I have been together for months. And now we're having a baby. I looked at Mark, silently begging him to say something, to tell her she was crazy, to fix this. But he just stood there, frozen, his face a mask of guilt and panic. Mark. My voice cracked. Tell her she's lying. He finally looked at me, and I saw it. The truth, written all over his face. Emily, he started, but Rachel cut him off. Don't lie now, she said sharply. You said you loved us both, remember? Something inside me shattered. I screamed, you're lying. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew she wasn't. The room erupted into chaos. My mother collapsed into her chair, clutching her chest. My father stood up, shouting something I couldn't hear over the ringing in my ears. Cameras flashed as guests pulled out their phones, recording everything. I couldn't breathe. The walls felt like they were closing in. I turned and ran. I didn't know where I was going, just away, anywhere away from that room, from those faces, from the truth I didn't want to accept. I stumbled through the hallway, past confused waiters and shocked guests, and burst through the back doors into the cool night air. It was raining. I stood there in my wedding dress, mascara streaming down my face, and ripped the veil from my hair. The delicate fabric tore in my hands, and I threw it onto the wet ground. Behind me, I heard Claire's voice. Emily. Emily, wait. But I couldn't. I couldn't face anyone. I couldn't think. The world spun, and the last thing I remember was Claire catching me as my knees gave out. When I woke up, I was in my mother's guest room, still wearing my ruined wedding dress. The fabric was damp and wrinkled, the beading scratching against my skin. My head pounded, and my throat felt raw from crying. My phone sat on the nightstand, buzzing endlessly. I picked it up with trembling hands. Hundreds of notifications. Text messages, missed calls, social media tags. And then I saw it, the videos. Someone had posted the entire scene online. Rachel's announcement. Mark's silence. My glass shattering on the floor. It was everywhere. I scrolled through the comments, each one like a knife. I can't believe this happened at her wedding. The sister is insane. Poor bride. This has to be fake, right? And then, buried in the notifications, one text from Mark. It's not what you think. I stared at those 5 words until they blurred. Then I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. The morning light felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. I dragged myself out of bed and stumbled to the bathroom, catching my reflection in the mirror. I barely recognized myself. My eyes were swollen, my hair was a tangled mess, and there were mascara stains on my cheeks that I hadn't bothered to wash off. Downstairs, I heard voices, my parents arguing quietly. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. "We have to do something, Richard," my mother said, her voice tight with panic. "This is all over the internet. The whole town is talking." "What do you want me to do?" my father replied, sounding exhausted. "Our daughter just found out her husband and her sister." He couldn't finish the sentence. "Don't say it like that," my mother snapped. "We don't know the whole story yet." What story could possibly make this okay? I walked down the stairs slowly, and they both went silent when they saw me. "Emily, sweetheart," my mother said, rushing over. "How are you feeling?" I almost laughed. How was I feeling? Like my entire life had imploded in front of 200 people.
Ai fine, Ilid.
My father turned off the television quickly, but not before I caught a glimpse of the headline. "Wedding disaster goes viral." "I want to see it," I said. "Emily, you don't need to." "I want to see it." He hesitated, then handed me the remote. I turned the TV back on and watched as a local news anchor discussed the shocking wedding announcement that's taken the internet by storm. They played the clip, Rachel grabbing the microphone, her announcement, Mark's guilty face, me running out in tears. I watched it 3 times before my father finally took the remote away. "That's enough," he said gently. There was a knock at the door. We all froze. "I'll get it," my father said. I heard his voice in the foyer, low and angry. Then Mark's voice, pleading. "Please, I just need to talk to her. Just 5 minutes." "You've done enough," my father said. "Sir, please. I need to explain." "Explain what?" "That you betrayed my daughter with her own sister?" I walked to the foyer before I could stop myself. Mark stood in the doorway, looking like he hadn't slept. His suit from yesterday was wrinkled, his hair disheveled. When he saw me, his face crumpled. "Emily, thank God. Please, just let me explain." "You have 5 minutes," I said coldly. My father started to protest, but I held up my hand. "It's okay, Dad. I need to hear this." We sat in the living room, an ocean of space between us on the couch. My parents hovered in the kitchen, close enough to intervene if needed. "It was a mistake," Mark started, his voice shaking. "A stupid, drunken mistake." "When?" 3 months ago. We were at that party, remember? For Rachel's birthday. You went home early because you weren't feeling well, and I stayed to help clean up, and he ran his hands through his hair. We'd both had too much to drink, and it just happened. "It just happened," I repeated, my voice hollow. "I swear, Emily, it meant nothing. I love you. I married you." "You married me while knowing you'd slept with my sister." "I didn't know she was pregnant," he said desperately. "I swear, I had no idea. If I'd known."
What?
"You would have told me? Canceled the wedding." I laughed bitterly. "Or would you have just gone through with it anyway and hoped I'd never find out?" He didn't answer. "Did you love her?" I asked quietly.
No. God, no.
"Emily, I love you." "Then why?" "I don't know," he whispered. "I don't know." I stood up. "Get out. Emily, please. Get out." I screamed, and my father was already moving toward the door, ready to escort Mark out if needed. Mark left, and I collapsed back onto the couch, numb. The next few days blurred together. I stayed in my childhood bedroom, avoiding my phone, avoiding the world. But the world wouldn't leave me alone. Rachel posted on social media. I didn't want to ruin her day, but she deserved the truth. The comments exploded. Thousands of people weighing in on my life, my marriage, my pain. Some defended me, calling Rachel cruel and manipulative. Others blamed me for being blind and naive. I read every single comment until Claire finally took my phone away. "You're torturing yourself," she said. "I need to know what people are saying. You need to heal." But how could I heal when everything kept getting worse? My mother finally confessed something that made my blood run cold. "I suspected something," she admitted one afternoon, sitting on the edge of my bed. "Weeks ago, I saw them talking in the backyard during that barbecue. They looked close. Too close. But I told myself I was imagining things." "You knew?" I whispered. "I didn't know, sweetheart. I just had a feeling. But I didn't want to believe it. I thought maybe it was just wedding stress, or—" "You should have told me." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I'm so sorry." I turned away from her. Everyone had betrayed me. Everyone. The family fractured quickly after that. Rachel moved in with a friend, refusing to come home. My father wouldn't speak to either her or Mark. My mother kept trying to play peacemaker, begging me to not make things worse. But how could things possibly get worse? I packed my things and moved into a hotel. I couldn't stay in that house, surrounded by memories and pity. Alone in the sterile hotel room, I started remembering things I'd ignored. Mark defending Rachel during family arguments. The expensive bracelet Rachel wore last month that she claimed was a gift from work. Their inside jokes that always made me feel like the outsider. All the red flags I'd been too happy to see. I finally worked up the courage to confront Rachel. I showed up at her friend's apartment unannounced and pounded on the door until she answered. "Emily," she said, trying to sound surprised. "What are you doing here? Is it real?" I demanded. "The pregnancy. Is it real?" She held up a sonogram photo. "See for yourself." I stared at the grainy image, feeling sick. "Why, Rachel? Why did you do this?" "I didn't plan this, she said, her voice softer now. "But he chose me. He was with me first." "That's a lie." "Is it?" She tilted her head. "You remember that conference Mark went to last year? In Chicago? Guess who he called every night?" My hand moved before I could think. The slap echoed in the hallway and Rachel stumbled back, holding her cheek. "Don't ever contact me again," I said, and walked away before she could respond. That night, Mark sent another text. "Rachel's lying about some of it. She's manipulating both of us. Please, can we just talk?" I didn't respond. Instead, I called a lawyer, a kind woman named Patricia, who specialized in family law. She listened to my story without judgment, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. "I want an annulment," I said. "Or a divorce. Whatever ends this fastest." "An annulment will be difficult," Patricia explained. "The marriage was legal, and it was consummated, correct?" I nodded miserably. "Then we're looking at divorce. But there's another issue. Did you and Mark share any assets? Bank accounts? Property?" "The house," I said. "We bought it together last year." Patricia frowned. "Then this could get complicated. You might lose not just your husband, Emily, but a significant portion of your financial stability." I left her office feeling even more defeated than when I'd arrived. That night, as I lay in the hotel bed staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Rachel's not the only one he's been with." Attached was a photo. Mark with another woman, sitting in a cafe, holding hands across the table. The timestamp showed it was from 2 months ago, just weeks before our wedding. I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. How many more lies were buried beneath the surface? I must have stared at that photo for an hour straight, zooming in on every detail. The woman was blonde, pretty, maybe in her early 30s. She was smiling at Mark like he was the only person in the world. The same way I used to look at him.
Who was she?
I called the number back immediately, but it rang endlessly before going to voicemail. No greeting, just a generic beep.
"Who is this?"
I said into the phone. "Please, I need to know who you are."
I didn't sleep that night.
Instead, I did what I should have done weeks ago. I started digging. The next morning, I called the number again. This time, someone answered. "Hello." A woman's voice, cautious. "Who is this?" I asked. You sent me a photo last night. There was a long pause. My name is Sophie. I used to work with Mark. Used to? I quit 6 months ago. Look, can we meet somewhere? I don't want to do this over the phone. We agreed to meet at a small cafe on the edge of town, somewhere quiet where we wouldn't be recognized. I arrived early, ordered a coffee I didn't drink, and waited. Sophie walked in 15 minutes later. She was younger than I expected, with dark hair pulled into a ponytail and nervous eyes that darted around the room before landing on me. Emily, she asked softly. I nodded, and she sat down across from me. I'm so sorry about what happened at your wedding, she said. I saw the video. That must have been horrible. Why did you send me that photo? Sophie sighed. Because I know what Mark is, and I couldn't let you keep believing his lies. Who's the woman in the picture? Her name is Ashley. She's a sales rep Mark worked with on a few projects.
They weren't involved.
I saw them together multiple times. I thought about saying something back then, but I wasn't sure if you knew, and I didn't want to cause drama. My hands tightened around my coffee cup. How many others were there? Sophie looked down at her hands. I don't know for sure, but Mark had a reputation at the office. He flirted with everyone. Some of the women joked about it, but others they took it more seriously. And you? Did he ever? He tried, Sophie admitted. That's part of why I quit. He made me uncomfortable, and HR didn't do anything about it.
I'm sorry, Emily.
I should have told you sooner. I felt like I was drowning. There's something else, Sophie said hesitantly. Mark used to mention an apartment. He said it was for crashing after late nights at work, but some of us suspected he used it for other things. An apartment? Where? She gave me an address on the other side of town. I don't know if he still has it, but it might be worth checking out. I left the cafe with Sophie's words ringing in my ears. Mark wasn't just a cheater. He was a serial liar, a man who'd built an entire secret life behind my back. I drove to the address Sophie had given me, a modest apartment complex in a neighborhood I'd never been to. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying to build up the courage to go inside. Finally, I walked up to the 3rd floor and found the unit number. I knocked, not expecting an answer. But the door swung open slightly. It was unlocked. My heart pounded as I pushed it open and stepped inside. The apartment was small but furnished. And there, on the coffee table, was Rachel's handbag. I recognized it immediately. The expensive designer bag she'd been carrying at family dinners for the past few months. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were prenatal vitamins, a hospital bracelet from an OB appointment, and a receipt for baby clothes dated 3 weeks before my wedding. They'd been planning this. Rachel had been living here, preparing for a life with my husband while I planned my wedding. I sank onto the couch, unable to process what I was seeing. That's when I noticed the box tucked under the side table. I pulled it out and opened it, finding stacks of papers, bills, receipts, and at the very bottom, a journal. Rachel's journal. I opened it to a random page and started reading. Emily has everything. She always has. Mom and Dad love her more, people like her more, and now she gets Mark too. It's not fair. Why does she get to be happy when I'm miserable? I flipped to another entry. Mark told me he loves me. He said Emily's too controlling, too needy. He wants to be with me, but he's scared of what people will think. I told him we could make it work. We just have to be patient. And then, the one that made my blood run cold. If I can't have happiness, I'll take hers. I dropped the journal like it had burned me. Rachel hadn't just made a mistake. She'd orchestrated this. She'd deliberately set out to destroy my life. But Mark wasn't innocent either. I kept digging through the box and found bank statements, loans taken out in my name, credit cards I'd never opened, all listing my income without my signature. Mark had been committing fraud. I took photos of everything with my phone, then carefully packed the journal and documents into my bag. This was evidence. This could save me. When I got home, I called Patricia immediately. He took out loans in my name, she repeated, her voice sharp. Emily, that's identity theft. That's a federal crime. What do? We file a police report, and we use this in the divorce proceedings. This changes everything. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. But that flicker died when I checked social media and saw Rachel's latest post. She was live streaming, tears running down her face as she talked about how heartbroken she was. Her followers flooded the comments with supportive messages, sending her money and gifts. She was profiting off this nightmare. I wanted to scream. Instead, I kept digging. If Rachel and Mark thought they could destroy me, they were wrong. I was going to find every lie, every secret, every dirty truth they'd buried. And I was going to bury them with it. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, a woman's voice said, "Is this Emily Walters?"
Yes.
"Who is this?" "This is Dr. Patel's office. We're calling about Rachel's missed appointment." I froze. "I'm sorry, what?" "We have you listed as her emergency contact. She missed her prenatal appointment last week, and we wanted to follow up." "Wait," I said slowly. "Are you saying there's no record of her pregnancy?" There was a pause. "I can't discuss patient details over the phone. But if you're her emergency contact, perhaps you could encourage her to reschedule." The line went dead. I sat there, phone in hand, my mind racing. Was Rachel lying about the pregnancy? I drove straight to her friend's apartment and pounded on the door until she answered. "What do you want, Emily?" she snapped. "Are you actually pregnant, Rachel? Or is this another one of your games?" Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "The clinic called. They said you missed your appointment. They said there's no record."
Fin.
Rachel shouted, slamming her hand against the doorframe. "Fine, you want the truth? I'm not pregnant. I never was." The world tilted. "You lied? I faked it, okay?" Rachel's voice was shrill now. "I thought if I could force Mark to choose, he'd pick me. But he didn't. He didn't choose either of us. He's a coward." "You destroyed my wedding over a lie?" "Your wedding?" Rachel laughed bitterly. "You never saw him for what he was, Emily. You thought he was perfect. I was doing you a favor." I turned and walked away before I did something I'd regret. That night, I confronted Mark over the phone. "Did you know?" I demanded. "Did you know Rachel was lying about the pregnancy?" His silence was answer enough. "You knew," I whispered. "You knew, and you let her destroy me anyway." "Emily, I was scared." "You're not scared. You're selfish. You're a liar and a fraud and a coward. Please, can we just—" I hung up. For days, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I just sat in my hotel room, replaying everything in my mind, trying to make sense of the senseless. And then, late one night, Claire came over with her laptop. "You need to see this," she said. She pulled up the wedding video, the full, unedited footage from the venue's camera crew. I hadn't been able to watch it before, but now, Claire fast-forwarded to the moment of Rachel's announcement. "Watch your mother," Claire said, pointing at the screen. I leaned closer. In the chaos of the announcement, my mother leaned over and whispered something to Mark. The audio was muffled, but Claire had enhanced it. "It's done. Just go along." Mark nodded. I felt the air leave my lungs. "What does that mean?" I whispered.
"I don't know," Claire said.
"But I think you need to ask her." I watched that moment over and over again. My mother's lips moving. Mark nodding. "It's done. Just go along." What had she meant? Go along with what? I couldn't confront her yet. Not until I knew more. So, I did what any desperate person would do. I went through my mother's things. I waited until both my parents left for their weekly grocery trip, then I let myself into the house with my old key. My hands shook as I climbed the stairs to their bedroom. I searched through drawers, closets, filing cabinets. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for until I found it, a folder tucked in the back of my father's desk drawer, labeled Mark Business Documents. Inside were loan papers, investment agreements, and wire transfer receipts. My parents had given Mark $50,000 6 months before the wedding.
$52,000.
I sat on the floor of my father's office, papers scattered around me, trying to piece it together. Why would they give Mark that much money? And why wouldn't they tell me? When my parents came home, I was waiting in the kitchen with a folder spread across the table. My mother saw it first. Her face went white. Emily, what are you doing here? What is this? I asked, my voice eerily calm. Why did you give Mark $50,000? My father set down the grocery bag slowly. Sweetheart, let us explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me too? My mother sank into a chair, her hands trembling. His business was failing, she said quietly. He came to us 3 months before the wedding, desperate. He said if we didn't help him, he'd lose everything. We thought. Her voice broke. We thought we were protecting you. Protecting me? I laughed bitterly. By funding my fiancé's lies? We thought if we helped him get back on his feet, everything would be fine, my father said. We didn't know about Rachel. We didn't know about any of it. But you knew something was wrong at the wedding, I said, looking at my mother. I saw the video. You told Mark to go along. What did that mean? My mother's face crumpled. Rachel came to me that morning. She told me what she was planning to do. She said she was going to announce everything during the reception. I felt like I'd been punched. And you didn't warn me? I begged her not to do it, my mother sobbed. I told her she'd ruin your life. But she wouldn't listen. So, I thought if I could convince Mark to just stay quiet, to not make a scene, maybe we could contain the damage. Maybe we could talk to you after the honeymoon and figure it out then. You wanted him to lie to me even longer? I wanted to protect you from public humiliation, my mother shouted. I thought if we could keep it private, if we could handle it as a family. It wasn't yours to handle. I screamed. It was my life, my marriage, my choice. And you took that from me. My father tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. All of you. Every single one of you chose to protect yourselves instead of me. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone. Emily, please. Get out of my way. I left that house and swore I'd never go back. I spent the next 2 weeks in complete isolation. I turned off my phone, stayed in my hotel room, and did nothing but think and plan. Because I was done being the victim. Claire was the one who finally broke through. She showed up at my hotel with coffee and a determined expression. Okay, enough, she said, sitting on my bed. I know you're hurting, but hiding isn't going to fix this. I'm not hiding. I'm regroupen. Then regroup with me, because I found something you need to see. She pulled out her laptop and showed me bank statements. Mark's been selling your jewelry online. The pieces your grandmother left you, the earrings I gave you for your birthday, all of it. He's been liquidating everything to cover his business debts. I stared at the screen, numb. How did you get these? I have my ways, Claire said mysteriously. The point is, he's been stealing from you for months. Maybe longer. That was the final straw. I want to destroy him, I said quietly. I want to destroy both of them. Then let's be smart about it, Claire said. No more crying, no more hiding. We fight back. I spent the next 3 days planning. I called Mark, Rachel, and my parents and told them I wanted to have a family meeting. No lawyers, no drama, I said. Just the 5 of us talking honestly. I need closure. They all agreed, probably thinking I was ready to forgive and move on. They had no idea. We met at a neutral location, a private room at a local restaurant. I arrived last, carrying a small bag. Mark looked haggard. Rachel looked defensive. My parents looked hopeful. Thank you for coming, I said, sitting down at the head of the table. I asked you all here because I need to understand what happened. I need the full truth. Emily, I've told you everything. Mark started. Have you? I interrupted. Have you told me about Ashley? About the apartment? About the loans you took out in my name? His face went pale. What about you, Rachel? Want to tell everyone again about your pregnancy? Or should I tell them you faked it? Rachel's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I turned to my parents. And you too. Want to explain why you bankrolled Mark's failing business and then helped cover up his affair? The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. I have proof of everything, I continued calmly. The fraud, the lies, the manipulation. I've been documenting all of it for the past 2 weeks. Emily, what are you doing? My mother whispered. I'm taking back control. Under the table, my phone was recording everything. And for the next hour, they talked. They argued. They blamed each other. Mark admitted to the financial fraud. Rachel admitted to planning the wedding announcement for weeks. My mother admitted to knowing more than she'd let on. They gave me everything I needed. When it was over, I stood up. Thank you for your honesty. It's more than you gave me on my wedding day. What are you going to do? Mark asked nervously. I smiled. You'll see. I left that restaurant with my phone in my pocket, the entire conversation recorded and backed up to 3 different cloud services. A week later, I uploaded the audio to an anonymous blog titled "For Anyone Who Thinks Betrayal Ends Quietly." I didn't add commentary. I didn't need to. The recording spoke for itself. Within hours, it went viral. Rachel's sponsorships dropped her immediately. Mark's business contacts distanced themselves. My mother's friends stopped calling. And I stayed silent through all of it. But the peace didn't last long. 10 days after I posted the recording, a certified letter arrived. Rachel was suing me for defamation. Her lawyer claimed I'd edited and fabricated the audio, that I'd ruined her reputation with lies. Attached to the lawsuit was something else, a check. A news outlet was offering me 6 figures for an exclusive interview about everything that had happened. I sat in my hotel room, the lawsuit in one hand and the check in the other, and laughed until I cried. Round 2, I whispered to myself. And this time, I wasn't planning to lose. The lawsuit sat on my hotel desk like a venomous snake, coiled and waiting. Rachel was suing me for defamation, claiming I'd fabricated and manipulated the recording to destroy her reputation. Her lawyer's letter was full of legal jargon that basically boiled down to one thing. She wanted me silenced, and she wanted money. I called Patricia immediately. How strong is her case? I asked. Patricia was quiet for a moment, the sound of papers rustling in the background. It's weak, she finally said. But that doesn't mean it's not dangerous. Desperate people do desperate things, Emily. Rachel knows she's losing control of the narrative, so she's trying to regain it through the courts. Can she win? Not if we prove the recording is authentic. Do you still have the original file? Unedited.
Yes.
And I have the metadata to prove when and where it was recorded. Good. Then we countersue for emotional distress, identity theft on Mark's part, and we make sure the truth comes out in court. But Emily, Patricia paused. This is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that? I thought about everything I'd already been through. The humiliation, the betrayal, the lies. Could it really get worse? I'm ready, I said. The next few days were a media circus. News outlets picked up the story, and suddenly everyone had an opinion about my life. Morning talk shows debated whether I was brave or vindictive. Social media exploded with hashtags, some supporting me, others tearing me apart. I made the mistake of reading the comments one night. She's just bitter and wants revenge. The sister has every right to sue. That recording was clearly edited. I feel bad for the bride, but posting private conversations online? That's messed up. Team Rachel. She deserves happiness too. Claire physically took my laptop away. Stop torturing yourself. These people don't know you. They don't know what really happened. But it didn't matter what strangers thought. What mattered was what the judge would think. Then Mark posted a video. I was lying in bed when Claire sent me the link with 3 words. You need to see this. The video showed Mark sitting in what looked like his apartment, his face drawn and tired. He spoke directly to the camera, his voice thick with emotion. I want to apologize, he said. To Emily, to both families, to everyone affected by my mistakes. I never meant to hurt anyone. Emily, you deserved so much better than what I gave you. I was weak, I was selfish, and I let you down in the worst possible way. I hope someday you can forgive me. The comments below were sympathetic. People called him brave for owning his mistakes. Some even suggested I should give him another chance. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. It's all an act, Claire said when I called her. Look at the timing. He posts this right after Rachel sues you. He's trying to make himself look like the repentant husband while Rachel looks like the villain. But people are falling for it. Some people will always fall for a good apology. But the judge won't. Facts don't care about crocodile tears. She was right. And I had facts.
Lots of them.
Meanwhile, Rachel was doing her own media tour. She appeared on a local talk show, dressed in soft pastels, her hair styled perfectly, tears streaming down her face as she talked about being abandoned and attacked by her own family. "I made a mistake," she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "But I never expected my sister to destroy my life over it. That recording was edited. She made me sound like a monster." The host nodded sympathetically. "And the pregnancy?" Rachel's face hardened for just a second before softening again. "I had a miscarriage. It's been devastating. And instead of supporting me, Emily made it worse by exposing my pain to the world." I watched the interview with my lawyer. "She's lying," I said flatly. "She admitted to me that she faked it. Do you have proof?" "Just my word against hers." Patricia made a note. "We'll need more than that. But don't worry, liars always slip up eventually. We just need to be patient." My patience was tested when the check from the news outlet arrived. 6 figures for an exclusive interview. It was more money than I'd made in 2 years of working. But taking it felt wrong. It felt like profiting from my own humiliation. "You should do it," Claire argued. "Not for the money, though that doesn't hurt, but because you deserve to tell your side of the story. Rachel's been controlling the narrative this whole time. Take it back." She had a point. I called the producer and agreed to an interview, but on my terms. No sensationalism, no drama. Just the truth. The interview aired 2 weeks later. I sat across from a kind journalist named Monica who asked thoughtful questions without pushing for tears or scandal. "Why did you post the recording?" she asked. "Because I was tired of being lied to," I said simply. "And I was tired of watching people I loved face no consequences for destroying my life. I wanted the truth out there. Not for revenge, but for closure." "Do you regret it?" I thought about that for a long moment.
No.
I regret trusting the wrong people. But I don't regret standing up for myself. The response was overwhelming. My inbox flooded with messages from women who'd been through similar betrayals, thanking me for my honesty. For the first time since the wedding, I felt like maybe something good could come from all this pain. But Rachel wasn't done. Her lawyer filed additional motions, trying to get the recording thrown out as evidence. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, Claire burst into my hotel room, her face pale. "Emily, turn on the news. Now." I grabbed the remote and flipped to a local channel. And there, on the screen, was Rachel, standing outside a courthouse, one hand resting on her stomach. "I'm pregnant," she announced to the cameras. "And the father wants to reconcile." The camera panned to show Mark standing beside her, his hand on her shoulder. My entire world tilted. "She's lying," I whispered. "She has to be lying." But the news anchor was already speculating about this surprising development and what it might mean for the lawsuit. I called Patricia immediately. "Can she do this? Can she just announce another pregnancy to manipulate the court?" "She can announce whatever she wants," Patricia said grimly. "But we'll verify it. If she's lying again, it'll destroy her credibility. And if she's telling the truth," she paused, "well, we'll deal with that too." I hung up and sat in stunned silence. Mark and Rachel, together again. Or maybe they'd never really been apart. Claire sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "This doesn't change anything," she said firmly. "You're still going to win." But as I stared at the frozen image of them on the TV screen, I wondered if winning even mattered anymore. The pregnancy announcement dominated the news cycle for days. Reporters camped outside Rachel's apartment. Gossip sites speculated about wedding dates and baby names. And I watched it all from a distance, numb and exhausted. Patricia came through with information faster than I expected. "She's not pregnant," Patricia said over the phone, her voice clipped and professional. I subpoenaed her medical records through the court. "There's no pregnancy." Again. I closed my eyes. So she's using the same lie twice. Which means her credibility is about to implode. We're filing a motion to dismiss her lawsuit based on this alone. "And Emily," Patricia's voice softened, "this is almost over. Just hold on a little longer." But before we could file anything, Mark reached out. The text came late at night. "Please. I need to talk to you. Just once. I'll explain everything. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Fine. But I'm recording this conversation. We met at a coffee shop across town, somewhere quiet where no one would recognize us. Mark looked terrible, hollow-eyed and gaunt, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Thank you for coming, he said as I sat down. I didn't respond. I just placed my phone on the table between us, the recording app clearly visible. He noticed and winced. I deserve that. You deserve a lot worse than that. Start talking. Mark ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I used to find endearing. Now it just annoyed me. Rachel's blackmailing me, he said quietly. I blinked.
What?
She has photos. From our affair. Some of them are real. Some of them are, he swallowed hard. She doctored them to make things look worse than they were. And she said if I don't go along with her story, if I don't stand by her, she'll release them online. So, the pregnancy announcement is fake. I knew it was fake. But I couldn't say anything because she threatened to destroy what little reputation I have left. I leaned back in my chair, processing this. Why are you telling me now? Because I can't do this anymore, he said, his voice breaking. I can't keep lying. I can't keep pretending. Emily, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I destroyed everything we had. But I need you to know that I never wanted any of this. You slept with my sister, Mark. You committed fraud in my name. You stood by while she humiliated me at our wedding. You wanted all of that. I was weak. You were selfish. I stood up. And you're still being selfish. You're only telling me this now because Rachel's threats finally outweigh your guilt, not because you suddenly grew a conscience. Emily, please. Give me the photos. All of them. And I want a written statement about everything Rachel's done. If you do that, I'll consider not pressing charges for the fraud. He looked up at me, desperate and pathetic. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I left with a flash drive full of photos and a signed statement. Patricia nearly cheered when I showed her.
This is it, she said.
This is what we need to end her lawsuit and her manipulation. We present this to the judge, and Rachel's case falls apart. The court hearing was scheduled for the following week. I spent those days preparing, going over my testimony with Patricia, making sure every piece of evidence was organized and ready. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully. A simple navy suit, minimal makeup, my hair pulled back. I wanted to look composed, professional. Not like the crying bride from the viral video. Rachel arrived late, her lawyer looking flustered and unprepared. She was dressed dramatically in black, playing the victim even now. When she saw me, her face twisted with something between hatred and fear. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence in silence. We'd submitted everything, the original recording with metadata, Mark's statement, the medical record showing no pregnancy, the photos proving Rachel's blackmail. When the judge finally spoke, her voice was cold. Ms. Walters, I've reviewed your complaint and the evidence presented by the defense. I find your claims of defamation to be without merit. The recording in question is authentic and unaltered. Furthermore, your pattern of deception, including false pregnancy claims and blackmail, severely damages your credibility. Rachel started to protest, but her lawyer put a hand on her arm. This case is dismissed, the judge continued. And Ms. Walters, I'm awarding court costs and legal fees to the defendant. You will also be required to issue a public retraction of your defamation claims. The gavel came down, and it was over. Rachel's face crumpled. She turned to her lawyer, arguing in harsh whispers, but it was too late. The truth had won. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Rachel pushed through them without comment, her lawyer shielding her from cameras. I gave a brief statement, thanking the court for their fairness, and then left with Patricia and Claire. How do you feel? Claire asked as we drove away. Empty, I admitted. I thought I'd feel victorious, but I just feel tired. That's normal, Patricia said. You've been fighting for months. Now you can finally rest. But the fallout was immediate and brutal. News outlets picked up the story within hours. Sister's fake pregnancy scandal exposed. Rachel's social media accounts were flooded with angry comments. Her remaining sponsors dropped her. The talk show where she'd cried about her miscarriage issued a statement saying they'd been misled. Mark's company officially shut down the next day. He posted one final message online: "I take full responsibility for my actions.
I'm sorry."
Then he deleted all his accounts and disappeared. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved to another state, trying to start over somewhere no one knew his name. I visited my parents one last time. My mother opened the door, her eyes red from crying. "Emily," she said softly, "I've been hoping you'd come." We sat in the living room where I'd grown up, surrounded by family photos that now felt like lies. "I'm sorry," my mother said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but I only made everything worse." "You chose to protect your image over your daughter," I said quietly. "That's what hurts the most." "I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." My father sat beside her, his hand on her knee. "We love you, Emily. We always have. We just made terrible choices." I looked at them, these people who'd raised me, who I'd trusted completely, and felt a complicated mix of love and disappointment. "I forgive you," I said finally, "but things can never go back to how they were. You understand that, right?" They nodded, both of them crying now. "I need time," I continued. "And space. Maybe someday we can rebuild this, but not now."
"Not yet."
I stood to leave, and my mother caught my hand. "I'm proud of you," she whispered, "for fighting back, for standing up for yourself. I should have done the same for you." I squeezed her hand once, then let go. As I drove away from my childhood home, I felt something shift inside me. Not closure exactly, but a release. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and could finally exhale. That night, alone in my hotel room, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not for the media, not for a lawsuit. Just for me. I wrote about the wedding, about the betrayal, about the lies and the pain and the slow, agonizing process of rebuilding myself from the ashes. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I cried, not from grief, but from relief. It was finally over. But as I closed my laptop and prepared for bed, my phone buzzed with an email. No sender name, no subject line, just an attachment. I opened it and found a single ultrasound photo. Recent, dated just 2 weeks ago, and listed as the emergency contact. Emily Walters. I stared at the image, my heart racing. What was this? Another lie? Another manipulation? Or something else entirely? I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the ultrasound photo, trying to make sense of it. Why would someone list me as an emergency contact? Why send it anonymously? At 7 in the morning, I called the clinic listed on the image. "Hi, I received an ultrasound photo with your clinic's information," I said, trying to sound calm. "My name is listed as the emergency contact, but I don't understand why." The receptionist put me on hold, and after several agonizing minutes, a nurse picked up. "Ms. Walters." "Yes." "I'm so sorry for the confusion. Your sister Rachel recently updated her emergency contact information to include you. The system automatically sends copies to all listed contacts." "My sister. Of course. Is she actually pregnant this time?" I asked, my voice flat. There was a pause. "I can't discuss specific patient details, but I can confirm she's currently receiving prenatal care at our facility." I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. So Rachel was actually pregnant. But who was the father? Mark was gone. Unless she'd been lying about that too. I tried to push it out of my mind. Rachel's life wasn't my problem anymore. I'd won the lawsuit, cleared my name, and started the process of moving on. Whatever drama she was creating now, I wanted no part of it. But Rachel had other plans. Over the next few weeks, her messages started coming. First sporadically, then constantly. "Emily, please. I need to talk to you. I know you hate me. I deserve it. But I need help. I'm sorry for everything. Please just hear me out." I deleted every message without reading past the first line. Claire kept telling me to block her number entirely, but some masochistic part of me wanted to see how desperate she'd become. Then the messages turned darker. You think you won, but you didn't. If I can't win, I'll make sure you lose everything you love. This isn't over, Emily. That's when I finally showed them to Patricia. This is harassment, she said immediately. And that last message could be construed as a threat. We need to file a restraining order. Is it really that serious? Patricia gave me a long look. Emily, your sister has proven she's capable of elaborate manipulation and public humiliation. She's lost everything. Her reputation, her sponsors, her credibility. People like that become dangerous when they have nothing left to lose. We filed for the restraining order that afternoon. But Rachel didn't stop. She started leaking information to tabloids, private emails from years ago, old photos with embarrassing captions, anything she could find to paint me as vindictive and cruel. Most outlets ignored her. The few that published her stories were quickly discredited when readers pointed out her history of lying. But the damage still hurt. Every new headline, every twisted story felt like another wound. Then she tried something new. She contacted my workplace, my friends, even distant acquaintances, telling them I was dangerous and unstable. She claimed I'd threatened her, that I was stalking her, that she feared for her safety. Most people saw through it, but a few believed her, and that was enough to make my life difficult. I lost a freelance client who said they couldn't work with someone involved in so much drama. An old college friend stopped responding to my messages after Rachel reached out to her. She's spiraling, Claire said when I told her. And she's trying to take you down with her. How do I stop her? You don't engage. You document everything, you keep your head down, and you let her destroy herself. Because that's what she's doing, Emily. Every lie, every desperate move just proves to everyone that you were right about her. Claire was right, but it didn't make it easier. The breaking point came when reporters caught Rachel outside a grocery store, disheveled and shouting at cameras. You want the truth? She screamed. Emily ruined my life. She turned everyone against me. I have nothing because of her. The footage went viral, but not in the way Rachel intended. People weren't sympathetic. They were disturbed. Comments called her unhinged and out of control. I watched the video once, then closed my laptop. I felt no satisfaction, no victory. Just sadness. Rachel had destroyed herself, and no matter how much she'd hurt me, watching her spiral was painful. 2 weeks later, I received a call from Rachel's lawyer. Not to threaten or sue, but with an offer. My client would like to settle everything peacefully, he said carefully. She's willing to sign a public retraction admitting to everything, the lies, the manipulation, all of it. In exchange, she asks that you agree to no further legal action and that both parties agree to move forward separately. What's the catch?
No catch.
Ms. Walters is entering a treatment facility and wants to close this chapter of her life. She knows she can't undo the damage she's caused, but she's hoping for a clean break. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted to refuse, to make her suffer more. But what would that accomplish? She'd already lost everything, and I was tired of fighting. I'll agree on one condition, I said. The retraction has to be detailed and public. I want the truth in writing, not vague apologies. Done. The retraction was posted 3 days later across all of Rachel's remaining social media accounts and sent to every major outlet that had covered the story. I, Rachel Porter, want to publicly admit that I lied about multiple pregnancies, manipulated my sister Emily and her husband Mark, and falsely accused Emily of defamation. The recording she posted was authentic and unedited. Everything Emily has said about my behavior is true. I take full responsibility for the pain I've caused, and I sincerely apologize to everyone I've hurt. It was everything I'd wanted to hear months ago, but now reading it felt hollow. I forwarded the statement to Patricia with a simple message. It's over. She called me immediately. How do you feel? Tired, I admitted, and ready to move on. Then that's exactly what you should do. I did move on. I sold the house Mark and I had bought together, taking the loss and using what little profit remained to start over. I moved to a small coastal town 3 hours away, somewhere quiet where nobody knew my story. I found work with a women's legal aid foundation, helping other women navigate divorces and protect themselves from manipulation. It felt meaningful in a way my old job never had. Months passed. The viral videos faded from search results. News outlets moved on to other scandals. My inbox slowly filled with fewer hate messages and more messages of support. I started sleeping through the night again. Started smiling without forcing it. Started believing that maybe, someday, I could trust someone again. And then, 6 months after everything ended, I received a letter. It was forwarded from my old address, postmarked from a rehab facility in Arizona. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Rachel. My first instinct was to throw it away without opening it. But curiosity won. Inside was a single page, handwritten in Rachel's careful script. Emily, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to even read this. But I need you to know that I'm getting help. Real help. I've spent the past 6 months in therapy trying to understand why I did what I did. Trying to become someone better than the person who destroyed your wedding. I was so jealous of you for so long. And I let that jealousy poison everything. I convinced myself that taking what was yours would make me happy, but it only made me empty. I named my daughter Hope, because despite everything, I hope I can be a better person. A better mother. Someone who doesn't hurt the people she loves. I don't expect anything from you, but I wanted you to know that you were right to fight back. You were right to expose me, because someone needed to stop me before I destroyed more lives. Thank you for that. And I'm sorry. For all of it. Rachel. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't closure. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was something. I folded the letter carefully and put it in a drawer, then walked to the window. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Coffee tomorrow? I have someone I want you to meet. I smiled and typed back. Sure. See you then. Maybe I wasn't ready to date. Maybe I'd never fully trust someone again. But I was ready to try living again. And that was enough. The coffee shop Claire chose was bright and airy, with large windows overlooking the marina. I arrived early and ordered my usual black coffee, no sugar, and found a table by the window. I'd been living in this coastal town for 8 months now, and slowly, quietly, it had started to feel like home. I knew the baristas by name. I had a favorite walking route along the beach. I'd even joined a book club full of women who had no idea who I was or what I'd been through. It felt good to be anonymous. Claire arrived right on time, and with her was a woman I didn't recognize, tall, with kind eyes and an easy smile. Emily, this is Veronica, Claire said. She runs the Legal Aid Foundation in the next town over. I thought you two should connect. We shook hands, and Veronica sat down with her own coffee. Claire's told me about your work, she said. It's impressive what you've accomplished in such a short time. Thank you. It's been healing, honestly. Helping other women navigate the same kind of pain I went through. That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you about, Veronica said, leaning forward. We're expanding our online outreach program, creating a platform where women can share their stories and find resources. I think you'd be perfect to help develop the content strategy. I felt a spark of interest. What kind of platform? Think of it as a community. A place where women who've experienced betrayal, manipulation, or abuse can connect, share their experiences, and find practical help. Not just legal resources, but emotional support too. It sounded exactly like something I needed months ago. A place where I wouldn't have felt so alone. I'm interested, I said. We talked for over an hour, brainstorming ideas and mapping out what the platform could become. By the time we finished, I felt energized in a way I hadn't in months. I'll send you the project details, Veronica said as we parted ways. And Emily, what you went through was terrible. But the fact that you're turning it into something meaningful? That's powerful. After she left, Claire and I walked along the marina. So, Claire said casually, how are you really doing? Better, I said honestly. Some days are still hard. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm just moving forward. Good. Because you deserve to be happy, Em. After everything, you deserve peace. I'm getting there. That evening, I sat on my small balcony overlooking the ocean and opened my laptop. I'd been writing sporadically over the past few months, not for publication, just for myself. Journal entries, reflections, letters I'd never send. Tonight, I wrote a letter to my younger self, the woman in the white dress who thought her life was perfect. Dear Emily, you don't know it yet, but your wedding day is going to be the worst day of your life. The man you love is going to betray you. Your sister is going to humiliate you. Everything you thought was real is going to shatter. And you're going to survive it. You're going to be stronger than you ever thought possible. You're going to stand up for yourself when everyone expects you to stay quiet. You're going to fight for the truth even when it hurts. You're going to lose people you loved. But you're going to find yourself in the process. The road ahead is hard. But you're going to make it. And on the other side, you're going to build something beautiful from the broken pieces. So when that moment comes, when your sister grabs that microphone, remember this. You are not defined by what they did to you. You are defined by how you rise above it. You've got this. Emily. I saved the letter and closed the laptop, feeling lighter. The next morning, I woke to a message from an unknown number. My first instinct was to delete it, but something made me open it.
Emily.
This is Sophie. We met months ago at that cafe. I saw the news about your platform idea, and I wanted to reach out. If you ever need someone to share their story about workplace harassment and standing up to manipulators, I'm here. You inspired me to finally file a formal complaint against my old boss. Thank you for showing me it's possible to fight back. I stared at the message, unexpected tears forming in my eyes. Maybe this was the real closure. Not Rachel's apology or Mark's disappearance, but the knowledge that my pain had helped someone else find their strength. I spent the next few weeks working on the platform with Veronica. We called it Rising, and we designed it to be both practical and hopeful. Women could access legal resources, find therapists, read stories from others who'd survived betrayal, and share their own experiences anonymously if they chose. When we launched it, the response was overwhelming. Within the first week, we had over 10,000 visitors. Women from all over the country sharing their stories, offering support, finding community. I read every story that came through, and each one reminded me why this mattered. We weren't just creating a website. We were building a lifeline. One afternoon, while moderating the forum, I came across a post that made me pause. My sister destroyed my wedding day by announcing she was having an affair with my husband. For months, I wanted revenge. But eventually, I realized the best revenge was just living well. Today, I started a new job. I'm finally happy again. To anyone going through something similar, it gets better. I promise. I smiled and typed a response. It absolutely does. Keep going. The anniversary of my wedding came and went. I spent it on the beach with Claire, drinking wine and watching the sunset. How are you feeling? Claire asked. Grateful, I said. Which is weird to say about the worst day of my life. But I'm grateful it happened, because it showed me who I really was, and who I could become. You know what we should do? Claire said suddenly. We should have a ceremony. A ceremony? A rebirth ceremony. Or a freedom ceremony. Whatever you want to call it. Something symbolic to close this chapter officially.
I thought about it.
Actually, I have a better idea. The next day, I drove to the jewelry store where Mark and I had bought our wedding rings. I'd been wearing mine on a chain around my neck, not out of sentimentality, but because I couldn't bring myself to throw it away after spending so much money on it. I'd like to sell this, I told the jeweler. He examined it carefully, then quoted me a price. It was less than half what we'd paid, but I didn't care. Sold, I said. With the money, I bought myself a simple silver band engraved with one word, resilient. That evening, I walked to the pier where I'd sat so many times over the past months. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and pink. I took my old wedding ring from around my neck and held it in my hand. It felt heavy. Heavier than it should. I forgive you, I whispered. To Mark, to Rachel, to my parents, to myself. I forgive all of you, but I'm never coming back to who I was before. That Emily is gone. I pulled my arm back and threw the ring as far as I could. It arced through the air and disappeared into the ocean with barely a splash. The ripples spread and faded, and I watched until the water was smooth again. Then I slipped the new ring onto my right hand and smiled. As I turned to walk away, my phone buzzed. Another message from an unknown number. For a second, my heart clenched. But when I opened it, the message was simple. Thank you for visiting me at the facility. I named her Hope. Maybe someday you'll meet her. But I understand if you don't want to. Either way, thank you. For everything.
Ed.
I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about Rachel, broken, alone, trying to rebuild her life the same way I was rebuilding mine. I thought about her daughter, Hope, who would grow up with a mother trying desperately to be better than who she'd been. And I thought about forgiveness. Real forgiveness. Not the kind that erases the past, but the kind that releases you from it. I typed out a response, deleted it, then typed it again. I hope she's healthy. I hope you both find peace. Maybe someday we can talk. But not yet. Take care of yourself, Rachel. I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I put my phone away, took a deep breath of salt air, and walked back toward town. The sun was almost gone now, the sky darkening to deep purple. Lights flickered on in the houses along the shore. Somewhere, music was playing. Somewhere, people were laughing. And for the first time in a year, I felt like I belonged to that world again. Claire was waiting for me at my apartment with takeout and a bottle of champagne. So, she asked, how do you feel? I thought about everything I'd lost. My marriage, my sister, my innocence, my trust. I thought about everything I'd gained, my strength, my voice, my purpose. Free, I said finally. I feel free. We clinked glasses, and as I took a sip, I looked at the ring on my finger. Resilient. That's what I was now. Not broken, not bitter, not defeated. Resilient. And that was more than enough. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through my windows and the sound of waves crashing against the shore. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started writing. Not a letter this time. Not a journal entry. A story. My story. Because maybe, just maybe, someone out there needed to hear it. Someone who felt broken and betrayed and alone. Someone who needed to know that you can survive the worst day of your life. You can survive, and you can thrive. I wrote for hours, the words flowing easier than they ever had before. And when I finally stopped, I had the first chapter of something real. Something hopeful. Something mine. I saved the document and titled it, The Bride Who Fought Back. Then I closed my laptop, grabbed my jacket, and headed out for a walk along the beach. The sand was warm beneath my feet. The ocean stretched endlessly ahead. And somewhere in the distance, I could hear children laughing. I smiled and whispered to myself, this is what comes after. And I kept walking. When someone you love betrays you in the most public way possible, do you fight back or walk away? And can you ever really trust again? If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about resilience, betrayal, and finding strength when everything falls apart.